Welcome back to Extraordinary Everything. Today's video will feature another case of life thriving in an extreme environment as well as a near-fatal helicopter crash. On this channel, we'll be covering all kinds of interesting places and species around the world. If that sounds like your type of content, check out our previous videos and please subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. The subject of today's video is Lake Natron, a salt lake that turns blood red, orange, and pink. It is the most caustic lake in the world and is deadly to most life. The lake is located in the Arusha region of the East African country Tanzania. It lies very close to the northern border, which separates Tanzania and Kenya. The lake is thought to be about 1.5 million years old. It is less than 10 feet deep, yet it extends 56 kilometers long and 24 kilometers wide. The width and depth varies in some places, as the water level changes throughout the year due to rain and evaporation. This region is particularly hot and arid, and it does not receive much wind. In fact, if you look up the 10-day forecast for Lake Natron right now, odds are you'll see 10 days of full sun, rains of clouds, over 30 degrees Celsius every day, and wind speeds of less than 15 kilometers per hour. Every day, the forecast looks about the exact same. The climate and composition of the lake often causes it to look exactly like a mirror image of the sky, which confuses some birds and tricks them into diving into the water. Animals that have had the unfortunate experience of being stuck in the lake appear as if they have been turned to stone. While they may look this way, there's a perfectly good explanation. Their bodies have actually been calcified and preserved due to the composition of the lake. Despite the extreme and hostile environment, the lake is a breeding ground for over 2 million lesser flamingos. With that being said, if you're not a flamingo, it's probably best to keep your distance. Although, in 2007, a group of wildlife documentary makers didn't really have a choice. 8 people in total were in a Tanzanian military helicopter to capture pictures and videos of the flamingos in Lake Natron. 5 of them had been wildlife filmmakers, and the other 3, including the pilot, were presumably Tanzanian military. They had been in the air for just about 5 minutes when things took a turn for the worst. The pilot was flying at a very low altitude and dipped too low, causing the helicopter's landing skis to catch the water. The chopper then went nose first into the water, breaking apart and sending the crew into the caustic lake. Ben Herbertson, one of the cameramen, recalls the details after the crash. The next thing I knew, I was in the lake and the water was burning my eyes. As he cleared the burning water from his eyes, he was able to make out the shapes of other passengers, some stumbling through the water and others still in the helicopter. Jeff Sibery, the producer of the documentary, broke his hip on impact, while the pilot had a broken leg and deep cuts on his face. As if the situation wasn't bad enough, the helicopter began smoking. Herbertson said they managed to get all the injured passengers out of the helicopter, but they had to move quickly as the smoking chopper seemed as though it could blow at any moment. They began walking and dragging the injured out of the water. Due to the long distance, estimated at 3 or 4 kilometers, 2 of the men walked to the shore and asked for help from the Maasai tribespeople that were around the lake at the time. The women and children of the Maasai tribe jumped into action. They made stretchers out of walking sticks and clothes for the injured and gave water to the rest of the passengers. Herbertson details how much the tribespeople helped in this detrimental situation. They were amazing. It was the middle of the desert and they were carrying people and carrying water. It was so sweltering you could dehydrate in about half an hour. The sweat ran down your forehead and the sulfur would run back into your eyes. As the passengers were being assisted onto the salt plateaus, the helicopter exploded, sending the gas tank and black smoke into the air. Luckily, they were far enough away that the blast did not injure anyone. The producer and pilot were airlifted out as they had sustained the worst injuries. The rest of the crew had been assisted back to their camp by nearby tour groups. They were then attended to by German doctors that were there on vacation. Herbertson said he did not believe there was any kind of mechanical error, although he holds no animosity towards the pilot and blames the bizarre conditions instead. He remembers the lake being like glass, and seeing the reflection of the sun, clouds, and heat haze. He believes this disoriented the pilot the same way it does to the birds in the area. Thankfully, they were flying slowly and one of the passengers spoke the language of the local people. If they hadn't received help or if they crashed in a more dangerous part of the lake, who knows what would have happened. Fortunately, all 8 passengers survived this ordeal. To fully understand how lucky they were, we'll be covering why this lake is so dangerous and how some species manage to thrive in this extreme environment. The lake is fed mainly by the southern Owasso and Judo River and by mineral-rich hot springs. The lethality of the lake is partially due to water temperatures that reach up to 60 degrees Celsius, although it is mostly due to the extremely high alkalinity. A pH scale measures how acidic or alkaline a liquid is. 7 on this scale is neutral, anything under 7 is acidic, and anything over 7 is alkaline. A low number would be really acidic, for example 2 would be lemon juice. A high number would be really alkaline, for example 12 is equal to household bleach. The pH of the water in Lake Natron has been measured as high as 10.5, and depending on rainfall, the alkalinity could get as high as 12. Typically, freshwater lakes will run off into the ocean or other bodies of water. Lakes such as Utah's Great Salt Lake, the Dead Sea, and Lake Natron do not have the same runoff or drainage as freshwater lakes. These salt lakes are categorized as endorheic lakes, meaning they only lose water through evaporation or from seepage into the ground, causing a buildup of high concentration of salt and other minerals. While Lake Natron is in the same group as other salt lakes, there is a specific characteristic that separates Lake Natron from the other salt lakes. The lake is situated at the base of an active volcano known as Oldonyo Lengai. It is the only volcano in the world that expels natrocarbonatite lavas. The lavas from the volcano form the surrounding bedrock during the Pleistocene period, which ranges between 250 million years ago and about 12,000 years ago. It contains significant amounts of carbonate and very low levels of calcium and magnesium. The runoff from the rainwater and the hot springs on the bedrock causes the release of natron, which is a mix of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. As the water runoff flows into the lake, the pH levels rise and natron becomes concentrated within the lake due to the high levels of evaporation. As you may have guessed, the name of the lake comes from the high concentration of the chemical natron. The chemical composition does not actually change the color of the water, but it does allow for microorganisms to do just that. These types of microorganisms are cyanobacteria, often referred to as blue-green algae. They are halophilic, which means salt-loving, and they have been around for a very long time. Cyanobacteria uses sunlight to conduct photosynthesis and release oxygen. The oldest cyanobacteria fossils date back to 3.5 billion years, and they are thought to have been the very first organisms to have ever produced oxygen on Earth. These microorganisms that live in Lake Natron have red pigments and can completely change the color of the water. With the extreme conditions of the lake, it is reasonable to think that the microorganisms are the only life within the lake, although that is not the case. There are a few species of tilapia that live in Lake Natron and are endemic to the lake, which means they cannot be found anywhere else. Lastly, but not least, is over 2 million lesser flamingos that use the lake as a breeding ground every 3 or 4 years. This colony of lesser flamingos makes up 3/4 of the global population. They can only breed at the lake every 3 or 4 years because they need perfect conditions. The males and females work together to build a nest of mud up to a foot high to prevent flooding. Therefore, if the water level is too high, then the flamingos cannot make nests on the small islands and shallow parts of the lake. If the water level is too low, the alkalinity of the water rises, and the lake becomes too caustic even for the flamingos. One of the most intriguing facts about these flamingos is their color is actually caused by their diet. Their diet is almost entirely made up of cyanobacteria. The flamingos metabolize the pigments of the cyanobacteria, and it causes their feathers to turn pink. They can wade through the water because the skin of their legs is extremely tough and scaly, which protects them against burns. They can drink water that is close to boiling, and they have glands in their head which enable them to remove salt from water and drain it from their nasal cavity. Instead of adapting to hide or defend from predators like other animals, these flamingos have adapted to an environment that is entirely hostile to any would-be predators. With no predators in sight, the only threat to their survival is a changing ecosystem, something that can only be caused by humans. The conservation of the species is classified as near threatened. The population of lesser flamingos has been decreasing due to human activities such as wastewater pollution, mining, and inappropriate forms of agriculture. Usually these flamingos would be able to live up to 50 years, although this number is declining with the degradation of their natural habitat. In 2007, there was a proposed development of a soda ash mining facility on Lake Natron, which would have extracted sodium carbonate. This plan would have included new roads or railways, construction of the facility, a coal-fired power station, new housing, and last but not least, pumping out thousands of liters of water and brine every day. Depleted brine and mud would be pumped back in, along with industrial waste and seepage of sewage and toxic chemicals from storage areas. The plan for this facility would have destroyed the whole ecosystem and endangered the lesser flamingo population. Thankfully, a cost-benefit analysis was conducted. It was determined that the benefits of ecosystem conservation outweighed the benefits of soda ash mining. In addition, an argument was made that the lake is part of an important network of ecosystems and that it needs to be managed wisely by introducing initiatives or developments which support the survival of wildlife. An example of this would be sustainable ecotourism, allowing for people from all over the world to observe the natural beauty of this region. Profit can be made and money can be put back into the same initiatives that ensure the protection of these ecosystems and the species within them. There is currently a World Wildlife Foundation initiative in southern Kenya and northern Tanzania, which is aimed at protecting forests, wildlife habitats, conserving fresh water, and promoting climate-smart agriculture. We hope that initiatives like this one help protect the future of the lesser flamingo population and their ecosystem. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and check out our next video. Thanks for watching.